God, this is a whole
Calm,
thing now.
calm
Jesus
those tits, Alex.
Christ. It's like 100 degrees in my garage today.
Ew.
It's hot. It's hot down here.
We are marching our way to snow.
Blah, blah, blah. You knew what you got into when you moved to Sweden.
There we go. Oops.
And you got the media pronunciation guide. So now you know, Ben. Knowing is half the battle.
It's not a battle I knew I wanted, but it's good.
You know what's funny is despite having read that a million times and despite having watched him for a season, I instinctively always want to call Delandria Delandrea. I don't know why. My brain has just wired him the other way for some strange reason.
It's because America just deleted all the spaces out of people's natural names.
This is not what I wanted. God bless it.
We do a lot of that stuff, Colin.
Oh, of course we do.
That ice thing on Latino Heritage Night. Yikes. Yikes.
Oh, God, yeah.
Jesus. That is...
First of all, that is a shit fucking fan.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But also, well done, idiots. Yeah. Well done. Okay,
you gotta screen that stuff a little better, guys.
There's the YouTube link. I'm going to post to
the Twitters. Oh, look at that super old logo. It's so cute. What am I doing here? Okay. 223. You guys ready for this? All right, here we go. Nice quality. You're recording, yeah?
Yeah, it's streaming. We're good.
Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 223. All aboard the panic train, Sharks fans. That's right. We're going to talk about what's happened after kind of just like 2 weeks of Shark seasons and the insane highs and lows Sharks fans are feeling. I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
There have been highs.
Sure. And then, of course, making a snowman over there in Sweden is Colin. How's it going, Colin?
Hey, the kids are all right. It's us olds who are pulling our team back.
Hey,
always the problem.
Let me tell you something. I had fun at the Shark Tank this week, but not at a Sharks game, at a WWE event. So it's not all bad in San Jose. But let's talk about what has sort of transpired since we last had a pod, which was actually last week. The San Jose Sharks, if you will recall, started the season with two sort of high offensive, but incredibly disappointing and very similar losses to the Vegas Golden Knights, who were, to be fair, on the second of a back-to-back, and the Anaheim Ducks. So what would transpire this week? Well, a whole lot of crap, actually. Whereas in the first two games, we saw a Sharks team that was at least fun and somewhat competent on one side of the ice. We slammed into Carolina, who, look, they are a cup favorite here, who pretty much steamrolled all of that. And then to make matters worse, didn't fare all that much better against the Utah team. And then we did close out the week, I would say, relatively better against the Penguins. But you had two games that, again, we didn't think, we were happy at the end of last week, right? We didn't think that the Sharks were going to put up as good a fight against Vegas as they did. They played, they had a lot of issues. Just a quick reminder, Sharks fans, this is not a good team. So they had a bunch of issues against the Ducks, primarily on the defensive side, and some, more goaltending uh-ohs. But then it started to trend in the opposite direction there. Again, not quite as fun. Frustration setting in. The vibe shifted pretty dramatically. And I would say, guys, the Sharks started flailing, as did Sharks fans this week as well. A couple of quick pickups before we get into some of the meat and potatoes here. Well, first of all, the Sharks have had a couple of injuries. Liljegren, Mukhamadullin, Klingberg. So, you're looking at their defense and you're going, well, that's not good. Good news for you. That defense wasn't good anyway. They end up claiming Vincent Iorio off of waivers and throwing him immediately into the fire. And then they flip Oscar Olason for Kyle Masters. Now, you might be looking at Iorio and Masters and going, does that actually do anything? And, well, not really. Vincent Iorio is a player who was on his way through waivers before the Sharks plucked him. Should tell you something. Granted, he's young. And Kyle Masters, nothing really, right? So you're basically flipping a prospect who I guess you don't see anything in for another prospect that some other team doesn't see anything in. So, those moves are not moves that are going to rescue the defense here. But let's talk about this, guys. What is going on with this organization right now? What do you think the problem is, and how bad do you think it is? Because I do want to emphasize again, I do think it's important for Sharks fans to remember, we started the season knowing this was not going to be a good team. I'm not making an excuse there. I'm just pointing it out. So when the Sharks are not a good team, doesn't warrant the level of panic that it feels like the fan base has. Ben, I'm going to point to you.
All right. I mean, I think my biggest concern, I've got two big concerns about where we have already been on 5 games. One big concern is that, there were these defensive pickups that were supposed to solidify the defense and hold spaces for, I guess, Luca Cagnoni and what have you, that not only have they not worked, they've been pretty much as disastrous as they looked like they should have been. I mean, Letty was picked up off waivers. Klingberg was garbage last year. There wasn't even a hint that Edmonton wanted to re-sign him, which should have been, a sign. And then rather than, give a guy who really deserves a shot, the opportunity to come up and play when injuries piled up, they claim this another never going to be this Vincent Iorio guy, who looks exactly as out of place as you would expect a guy who is never going to be an NHL player to be. So that's problem one. Problem two is Warsawski clearly has no idea what to do about what's going on. The vibes are bad, which is the exact opposite of what we thought this year would be with, the young players coming up. And part of it is because he's dicking around with the young players. He sits Graf after I promised Colin that would be the last person pulled out of the lineup. Misa has only played 2 games at this point in 5 games, and actually last night he looked very comfortable. Like he shouldn't be sat again. More comfortable than I think Smith looked at any point in the first quarter of last season.
Yeah, I agree.
Dickinson has actually been probably our best defender in the last couple of games. Actually, that's not fair to Vincent Descharnay, who somehow is our most consistent good defender, right? Like the world has turned upside down.
It's because he's too slow to move out of position, Ben.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think part of it is, again, like, Dickinson and Descharnay, they're getting sort of sheltered minutes.
Yeah.
And they're doing well in those sheltered minutes, which is what you want, right? So that's fine. And then I guess I kind of also owe an apology to Dellandrea, who's been probably, the most consistent young forward not named Smith or Celebrini, and partly because Smith hasn't been particularly consistent, but also because he's getting dicked around with by our dumb fucking coach. So anyway, my main concerns: the defense is awful. They're not doing the right things to fix it. Warsawski's out of his element, and what do we do about that? So
yeah, the flailing's obvious here because, first of all, we talked about this, in the offseason. We talked about it in last pod where Greer's pretty much rubbed himself up against the contract maximum. So, plucking guys, like, you don't really have the flexibility to be grasping at straws. And it's pretty clear they're doing that with both those Iorio and Masters moves. Iorio, look, am I expecting him to light the world on fire? Not really, but I think, to align with you, Ben, and I agree with you overall, the way that they've already dropped Iorio into me tells me that they are flailing, because
Yeah.
you're talking about a guy who wasn't good enough to stick up on the Washington roster early in the season. He's young. Look, I get it. He may have a future, to some extent, but to grab him because you see that the defense is abysmal, and to throw him in without even a practice
Yeah.
or like even a meet and greet of the players, that's why, like, we were talking in our chat a little bit, and obviously fairly, a lot of people are pretty harsh on him, and that I get that, but also that's a setup to fail for any non-crazy experienced vet.
Totally.
And even then, right? And so, like, you look at that and you go, if that is what you think is going to solve the issue, if you think plucking a guy off waivers and just throwing him straight into the fire without any learning the system or any time at all, and you think that's going to be better than pulling up Cagnoni or Thompson.
Yeah, what are we even doing here?
Yeah,
right?
And again, this kind of goes back to, like, to me, the concern is that they aren't evaluating their talent very well, or they're seeing something in day-to-day training, that we're not. That's a red flag, but I don't know what that would be.
No, what I think it is they don't actually understand what is good defense at
Agreed.
an NHL level in this century, and they're stuck in that we've got to have big, grindy guys. There's no harm in having one of those dudes, but you don't need 3 of them. You don't need 5 of them. Like, what you need is, honestly, our best case scenario is you do have a grindy guy on each pair, but they're paired with a puck mover, right? They're paired with a guy who can actually zone exit. And the problem with Iorio is they toss him in with Leddy, and neither of them can exit the zone.
Yeah.
And this is why the Sharks are getting outshot in every fucking period. This is why the Sharks are even when they score 6 goals, they lose 7-6. It's that. And I don't know where this issue is, whether it's Warsofsky or Greer. They just are fucking wrong about how defense works. They're just wrong. And unfortunately,
and not just the 2 of them too, by the way. They have a whole system of scouts and trainers and everything who are watching and evaluating. And I point that out, Ben. So I point that out because the Sharks have made a really big deal about the fact that they've pulled in NHL, air quote greats to come in and help guide this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that concerns me a little bit, because it's entirely possible it's Greer's hands off and on that, and Warsofsky's choosing the lineup. It's also entirely possible that it's a committee. Either way, it's not very encouraging, because I think to us fans, the problems are fairly obvious and the solutions based off of what we can do. Right, we're not magically going to become an amazing defense, but we do have better pieces that we should at least be trying in this, rather than, I think the answer feels like, shuffle what we have. Okay, that's not, you can try that for a game, and if those pairings aren't any better, it's not magically gonna fix itself. Grabbing random players and trying to pull them in over what you have, like, that suddenly concerns me about. If you look at the AHL team right now, they are overloaded, and that's problematic for development as well. So,
the thing I would say is, it can't just be Warsofsky, because he doesn't handle waiver claims. He doesn't handle signing a guy like Nick Leddy, or I should say, picking him up on waivers, or picking up Iorio on waivers, or signing John Klingberg. So it's got to be a committee issue, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, if I were in Warsofsky's shoes and I had 2 brain cells to rub together, which I'm not sure he does, I would be recognizing that this is not working. And I wouldn't be blaming, because I'm smarter than Warsofsky, I wouldn't be blaming the young guys, because it's not the young guys who are the problem. I would be looking at these pylons and going, fuck, I need to get out of the zone once in a while. And I don't see how a coaching staff, with all the video they have access to and all of the guys behind the scenes who are breaking down numbers, etc., cannot fucking figure out that the problem here is guys like Leddy and Klingberg and Ferraro, who is the worst defender in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the tough things if you are, again, it's different being on the inside and being on the outside, obviously. And this isn't defending coaches or anything like that, or the team, because they need to figure this out. They need to figure out pretty quick. Again, not expecting the Sharks to be good, but they shouldn't be like this either. This is a backslide to an extent. But one of the things you do kind of have to take into consideration is, ideally, as an organization, fans will turn on a dime. They will praise or panic immediately. That's just how fandom works. And when you are a coaching staff, you need to be evaluating things a little bit more situationally, right? So it could be, hey, did someone have a bad game? Does that mean he's going to have a bad game next game? Not necessarily. Now, you do have to make the call on how long you ride something versus how long you make a change, because the opposite of it, right, is like, I know instinctually we look at it, and I'm not saying here, I think we need to make changes here, just to be perfectly clear, but you don't want to be making a change every 5 seconds, because that disrupts a lot for the team. At the same time, you do need to know when to shit or get off the pot on a decision that you're making. Now, when we saw some of the struggles on defense, is it possible that, suddenly these players are hitting IR, that they were playing a bit injured, and that was a piece of it? Sure, it is.
It could be.
And that's the decision that they kind of need to make. But I think the hard thing is that, like, it feels like things are stacking, and I can't tell whether or not it's because fan expectations, because of the first 2 games, shifted, or whether or not, because again, we knew they were going to be bad. I don't know, Colin, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. What's your take on this? Like, we knew the Sharks were going to be bad, right? So how table flippy are you right now?
Okay, well, oddly enough,
if you flip tables in Sweden, by the way, IKEA comes after you, so you can't do that.
No, they just sell you another table.
Yeah, you just gotta make it.
Yeah, exactly. The punishment is built into the purchase.
Yeah.
So I'm oddly in a wait and see place, because, like, yeah, it's bad, and yeah, I'm looking fondly to last season's goaltending, and in hindsight going, wow, our goaltending really was a big difference between this defense being fully exposed and only partially exposed. And it's amazing they've recreated the same trash defense with a whole new group of vets. Like, that's all interesting. I want to see 10 games, because the sticking point is seeing success with the kids, and specifically, like, seeing guys like Graf step up and just be like doing the job, doing the work, back checking.
He's so good. He's so smart.
Yeah.
Getting in passing lanes, disrupting opposing teams' rushes. Like, he's doing the crappy jobs that coaches apparently love. And as we opened up, saying, it's the first thing he gets is, good job, guy. Now go sit down. You don't get to play anymore.
Yeah.
And we're we see Celebrini and Smith just be everything we want them to be together. Nope, got to break that up. Like, I think
the hard thing for Celebrini is, like, I don't think Celebrini is playing poorly, but I also don't think Celebrini is playing as well as he could either.
Yeah,
and I think the and to be honest, like, I've really liked Smith so far this season, but he's had his inconsistencies too. But I think where you are, Colin, is correct. I think that whole, like, you can't make decisions quite this fast. We need to see it longer. What I do think is a little unfair, and I know I sound like I'm just defending the team or Wars, but, like, I've seen a lot of fans lately go, well, Wars hasn't won his last 13 or 16 games or however many it is going back to last season. And that, to me, I look at that and I go, well, look, that's not wrong technically, but also the end of the season, Sharks, they had sold off all their spare parts. And this is a different team in a different season. So while sure, that's not the best of signs in the world, I don't know that you can look at it that way. And it just seems like another pile-on, not pylon, pile on,
making plenty of both.
but making fans like, over stress about a situation. And again, it's not a good situation, but like,
but the problem is like I hear exactly what you're saying. Totally, Alex. That maybe it's premature to be on the Fire Warzo train, which I
I'm not
have seen
saying
a lot of
that.
people
I'm not
get
saying
onto right
that.
away.
I'm not saying that, Ben. I'm simply saying that you don't count last season's games
No,
towards the end
but
where
I
they traded everyone off. into that.
totally. I guess my problem, is why would anybody expect guys who have a track record of not being NHL players and are veterans, to be clear, to suddenly come here and be better is the problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
Maybe if we had like a good coach, that could be an expectation we could have, but I think the issue is that the team keeps rolling out guys who, yeah, they've had bad games, and we could say maybe we're jumping on guys too soon, but most of these guys do have a track record of at best mediocrity,
Right.
and at worst they're garbage fires with us last year or garbage fires elsewhere. So I think it is fair to criticize lineup decisions that stubbornly keep rolling those guys out, right?
Well, 100%.
Wait.
The proposed solutions to the problems continue to be very illogical. And to be honest, I think what frustrates me is that I don't even know the correct words to use here to describe this, but it's like their view of what they have to work with is so extraordinarily narrow that, like, again, rather than saying, hey, our D is really bad right now, Letty's not playing well, Klingberg's not playing well or is hurt, Mukamadulin is, hurt, rather than them going, all right, let's look at our slate of defensemen that we have between the NHL and the AHL, who's performing at the AHL level, who do we have high hopes of and we want to see some development opportunities for and bring them up. Instead, they're going, well, we only really have Descharnais to work with,
right,
and then maybe we can blender, and like that to me, if you are that's the one thing that I'm really freaked out about, to be honest. If I freaked out about anything, and I'm not that freaked out, is just that, like, again, knowing this was supposed to be a bad year, this is supposed to be a development year, right? It is supposed to be a step forward for some opportunities for prospects. Yes, we filled up that contract space, but now that you've seen that that's not working, now is the time to be deploying those players that you want to see develop. Pop them up, give them a shot. But again, it's too narrow. Colin.
Yeah.
I had a terrifying thought watching the last game against the Penguins. I felt as though the kids are being deployed to make the tired old vets look good for better trade. Because I'm watching Eklund, right? And yeah, we haven't been entirely nice to Eklund, especially Alex, but like
they have. I love Eklund.
He you love him except when he doesn't put away goals that you.
Well, but look, you're talking about a team right now who this season one of their biggest issues is finishing. It is.
Yeah, sure. But you see Eklund working his ass off.
Yeah, and
he just keeps getting thrown around, and then you see Smith getting thrown around. Yeah. And it's like, wait, is Smith now supposed to support Misa? Like, is Smith?
Which, by the way, please keep those two together. If you're not going to put Smith with Celebrini, put him with Misa. They had instant chemistry.
But here's my point: is like, okay, cool. If the kids can coach the kids, what the hell are the veterans doing here? If the kids are the ones carrying things, if you're building around the kids and saying, okay, Eklund, it's time for you to carry some old sacks up and down the ice, why are we clinging to the sacks so much? Because clearly the kids can carry the weight. So what's happening?
I think I think they have a belief, and they've said as much over the years. I think, even before Greer, I think they have a belief that, throwing the kids into the deep end on average is a dangerous thing for their development. And for certain players, that's probably true, right? There are definitely players that are probably not quite ready. Throwing them in a bad situation might not be ideal. Like I worry about Askarov a little bit here, just because, goalies specifically, can be head cases, and understandably, understandable. Really, it's a tough position, and you don't want that to start permeating the roster and really drag them down. But again, I think you have to look at it from the perspective of what is not working here, and again, Ben, I think the big fear is that they either recognize that, let's say, a player like Leddy isn't working, and they're just not doing anything about it. Or scarier, they don't recognize that.
Right.
They think it's something else. And I don't mean to pick on Leddy specifically, because I think there are a number of players on this roster that are in similar positions. But again, what we are looking for as fans this year, we're looking for development. We're not looking for a leap forward. We're looking for baby steps forward. And ideally, we're looking to see the youth get utilized. It is good that we're seeing Dickinson and Misa. It is good. And I will say, I will give the Sharks a little bit of credit in that when the defensive stuff started to hit, they recognized fairly quickly that Dickinson might be an answer, and have kind of left him in there for the most part. Like, sheltered, but I thought they were going to do a little bit more of the Smith thing, which is pull him in, pull him out, pull him in, pull him out.
Well, they might still, right? Like we don't know what's going to happen when Klingberg comes back.
They may, but Smith didn't get like multiple games. It was like, 1 or 2 on off, right? And so I think they recognize that the Dickinson is not necessarily the issue in here, which is good. And again, we have Graf. Graf is still up, which I, frustrated with line movement, for him, Celebrini, Smith, others, but still up. I think for me, other than the Carolina game, the offense, when they air quote leave it alone for the most part, when they don't blender, the offense ends up being pretty potent whether they score or not. I mean, like last night's game against the Penguins, Sharks had a lot of really great scoring opportunities. It really is that that defense side is so incredibly broken, and the goaltenders who, much like last season, are kind of fighting for their lives with the defense that bad. They also haven't, we haven't seen a real Blackwood type performance. I would say Ned's probably gotten us the closest there. Yes, Askarov has had some good saves, but they've also had some pretty bad let-ins and breakdowns as well. So, they have pieces to use. Let's start using them, because this defensive core is not doing it.
But let's also just reward success and not tear it apart to try to fix the hole by recomposing it every time.
I think they're getting desperate for a win, and that's why they're doing that, to be honest. I think they feel exactly the pressure that the fans are starting to feel and apply, which is, oh shit, we haven't won a game. Now everything needs to be about winning. And I think that is the wrong. I think to some extent, you do have to get out of this funk, prove you can close the game. Absolutely. But if you start making decisions, when you do that, in this situation, you're likely to flail, right? And that's what they're doing.
Well, yeah, they need to. I hate to say it this way, but they need to moneyball it. They're not trying to buy just wins. They're trying to get goals. They're trying to, get shots to get goals. They're trying to do these fundamental things that certain groups were doing well. And then those pairings or those individuals just get scrambled around.
They may think they're doing that, though. That's the one danger with the Moneyball strategy, and sometimes advanced stats too. And I'm not shitting on them by any means, but you see this in soccer a lot. With there's a bit of an advanced stat revolution that's happened in the last 15 years, specifically 10 years specifically. There are teams that understand what they're looking at and understand how to use that, and then there are teams that think they understand that and don't. Right, and so it's entirely possible that that's why they're making some of the decisions that they're making. They think they're looking at the correct things, and they're reacting to it in a way that, from their, thesis should be, or hypothesis should be correct, but it's actually the wrong thing, the wrong advanced stat, the wrong, because again, Ben, to your point earlier, they got a ton of people looking at this stuff.
Yeah. I don't get the sense that Warsawski makes decisions based on like any sort of advanced stat. Because to me, he seems like a guy who is fixated on the sort of like carrot and stick style of coaching of like, if you don't do what I ask you to do, you're going to be on the third line. No matter how successful you were with your friend Macklin Celebrini. And if if you do your job, hey, I'll throw you on the fucking top line for you to flail around for a game. How you doing, Adam Gaudette? So I don't think
it's possible. This is just, we've talked about this with players in the past, and we talked about it a little bit with our former coach. But there are sometimes players and coaches and management and just in life, people in general, who are amazing at a level and are not amazing at the next level. And, because Warsawski's, he's won stuff. Like he can get teams motivated, he can coach, but it might just not be at the NHL level or not at this point in his career, which is again, like you see it all the time. You see a guy that kicks ass in the AHL and you bring it up to the NHL, and the game's just too fast. His game doesn't necessarily translate all the way. You keep saying, Ben, he's out of his element, and that's what I'm seeing too, and especially with his last press conference, where he more or less said he'd trade his kid for a win. Like that.
Yeah,
that tells me that frustration.
Yeah, and the picture of him is good too.
Oh, yeah. but also that frustration is also washing down, right? Like,
right.
Celebrini's press conference or post game yesterday was also scary to me because of, again, like the vibes are supposed to be good. This is supposed to be a fun team. This is supposed to be the year that young guys start to kind of put things together as a group, not be good, but like not be fucking losing 5-1 to Carolina bad. And I think the players can see Warsawski doesn't have the answer because, again, like you pointed out to me, Alex, something I missed during an intermission yesterday, which is Balby, being the state media that he is, asked Will Smith, like, what does it mean when Warsawski says, the word work? And Smith's like, I don't fucking know, man. I'm just gonna play my game.
Yeah, right.
It's real fucking bad.
It was
real bad.
It was equal parts a very typical hockey nothing answer, and at the same time, very easy to want to read between the lines on it. And I let me ask you a question about Celebrini, because I love Celebrini. I love him. I love him. Period. Yep. I'm not going to hate on him at all. But do you feel at all that him getting a letter right now? So, I was absolutely for him getting a letter. I think he's the future captain of this team. But I've also noticed a slight difference seemingly in his game between last season and this season. And that is, this season, it does feel sometimes like he's trying too hard in certain situations. He's trying to force plays. Do you think the pressure of having that is adding to, as you mentioned, Ben, the sort of frustration that you're feeling from him in terms of like feeling like, well, now I have to be more responsible for this? Do we think that's helping or hurting or nothing? Is it a nothing burger?
What do you think, Colin?
I think the legends in teams don't happen in isolation. Like, you have McDavid and Draisaitl. You have you have Thornton and Marleau. Like, these players need to have a sense of synergy and chemistry with somebody else out there. And anytime we have Smith and Celebrini playing together, they're having fun.
Yeah.
And like, they're having a good time. And you put Toffoli on there and they're having fun with somebody who can shoot and like bury the puck at random times, which is what they need. Like, both of those guys can shoot. Both of them are a little like shot shy, but like they're also nailing amazing passes and making the right pace decisions they need to make. So like we return back to, what the hell are we trying to do for these guys? And I don't think it's the A. I think it's the fact that Celebrini hates to lose and is just doing whatever he can to try to put this team on his back. And he's not being given the consistency to like find that partner to be like, okay, you and I are gonna do something here. And so he's just pushing.
I've got two thoughts on it, and it's same as last week is one of them, which is I don't know that he's fully healthy. I don't know that he's fully up to speed. He doesn't look as fast to me so far this year as he looked last year when he was really in it. And could that be hesitancy from nerves, frustration, etc., instead of being an injury? Sure. But I don't know. I definitely don't think he's playing to his maximum, but he is a point per game player in the 5 games we've got so far. So like,
he and Smith at the end of the day are like consistently putting up points.
Yeah, I mean, so to that point, I don't know. Is he sulking because his best friend was taken away from him on his line, and he's got to fucking drag Gaudette up and down the ice for a whole game? A guy who, look, Gaudette probably really good fourth liner on a good team. Should he be anywhere near the top line? Fuck no. That's one of the dumbest decisions I've ever made or seen made. Like what the fuck? Celebrini needs people who can shoot, who can take the pass and bury it. And what the fuck?
I assume that it's two things. One, I assume that they think that Celebrini, much like Jumbo, is a type of player that will elevate whatever's on his line. And so they can potentially give him spare parts and that line will still perform average or above average, versus if they just do like Misa, Smith, Celebrini, where now all of a sudden you have like, the three guys you need. They're trying to spread it out. The other thing too, just to point out in our chat right now, listener Ian points out, I don't think it's the A, I think it's the Olympics, because NHL players are eligible for the Olympics this year. And who knows? Maybe, but there's just something about his game this year that feels like he's trying to put a lot more on his back than I think he needs to. We obviously need him to be our franchise player, generational player. No doubt about it.
I just want to say to the Jumbo comparison, even Jumbo couldn't turn Tomas Plihal into Maurice Richard.
No,
right?
Of course not. But he sure as hell made Chichu look like the greatest scorer of all time, right?
Yeah, but Chichu, for all of his faults, could shoot the puck.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
That's the thing. Is I don't understand.
If you look at Celebrini and you look at guys like Misa, right? I don't think you look at Smith like this anymore, because I think Smith's more a winger just at the end of the day. But if you look at them as QB type players, and you look at a Jumbo as a QB type player, and you have, I think like when you have an overstacked roster of forwards, you can you have 4 just top-notch lines all the way through. When you have 2 lines, let's say, how you use those 2 lines is how you spread that 2-line goodness across the 4 lines, because you have to play 4 lines. You have one of two things you can do. You can either overstack those top 2 lines and pray that they make up the difference. Like, you guys do us a favor, score 6 goals right off the bat, because then the other 2 lines have to come in, and we need to have we need to have a buffer there. Like we need to have a deficit or whatever it is. But I do think that's a little bit of it. Like same with Kurashev. I think it's somewhat a similar situation. Not that I necessarily hate on him as a player. I know some fans have already turned on him, but I look at that as like they see, okay, well, we have Celebrini or we have Smith and we have something else. We can put a player that is either we think developing, or we think maybe they're not a first line player, but we'd rather spread our good players across the lines, or at least the top 3 lines. I think that's probably what they're doing.
I think you can afford to spread players across lines when you're actually good. I don't think you can when you're praying to score more goals than the other team. To do that, I think you have to put your strongest players together. And actually, I want to talk about Eklund here, because Colin, you brought up that Eklund is sort of snake bit. I think Eklund is held back by his center. I don't think Wenberg is a scoring center. I think that their line has been winning their minutes, but they can't fucking score a goal to save their lives. And that's been the only consistent line. Like Warsawski looks at that and goes, double thumbs up, baby. And if you are operating as an NHL coach, I think you kind of have to notice that, sure, they're winning their minutes, but what that means with this team is that there's a fuck up on the defensive end and they're getting scored on instead of putting the puck away because,
Yeah.
there's no
What if
shooter
you're
on that
overthinking
line.
it? What if you're
Who-
overthinking it? What if it's just, yeah, the Swedes hang out together?
Yeah, I mean, I did it last
mean-
year. I think Eklund to me. Look, I know I gave him some crap last week on the empty net situation. He's putting up great chances. Like those are going to go in at some point, and when they do, I hope it sets off an avalanche for him because you can tell he's getting pretty frustrated by the fact that those just aren't going in right now. And some of them have been stellar saves by the goaltenders that he's been up against too. I mean, he's definitely one of those players who I would argue, despite the fact it's not going in, I feel like he's taken a step forward for the most part. Like,
Yeah, I'd agree.
he's most of the forwards, to be perfectly honest, not super in my crosshairs. Like, I don't love the fact that Reeves is playing so few minutes. At that point, why have him if you're not going? Like, but either pick up guys you're going to play or don't. Like to me, because then you're just short shifting your other lines basically. Like it's not ideal. But the forwards to me again, I don't think they need to be blundered as much as they keep blundering them. I think they've been relatively okay. Is the puck going in the net as much as we would like to see and they probably expect? No. I think the only game that I saw where I was like, hey man, like there's something seriously wrong with this was, the Hurricanes game didn't start off with a lot of shots on net, which was pretty disheartening. Now, again, you're playing a really good fucking team who is not going to give you much of anything at all. So also not a huge shock. It wasn't a ton better against Utah either, at least not at first, but I don't know. I think offense, I'm not super concerned. I'm really not. I'm much more concerned about the defense, obviously, and then goaltending is just it's this weird spotty place where 1 minute Ned and Askarov look brilliant, and then the next minute there's a wide open shot that they have full visibility on that's taken like almost from the blue line, and they just fan on it.
I mean, Askarov is scaring me more than Ned, but
well, that's because that's because you have more invested in Askarov than Ned, because you look at Ned as like he's a tandem, but he's not meant to be the future of the franchise. Whereas Askarov, I think all of us fans have really hitched our wagon on like, great, now we've got goaltending solved. And when you see the shakiness here, you start to, that doubt starts to creep in. And just to bring it all back around, I think that's where Sharks fans really were this last week was, we knew the team wasn't going to be bad, but we didn't have doubt creeping in on some of this stuff. We didn't have doubt creeping in necessarily that the franchise was blowing the rebuild in any way, shape, or form. We didn't necessarily have that doubt or concern about the goaltending, right? And yet now, after last week and the team's reactions to it, now all of a sudden you start to get a little bit concerned on whether or not we're going to be a Buffalo. I don't think we're going to be a Buffalo personally. I think it's way too early to be making that call.
I think it's jumping to conclusions there. Yeah.
Very reactionary though. I think it's where the fans are right now. It's very reactionary.
I mean, I understand.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look any better than last year. And it's both decisions from a GM level and a coach level that have put us here, right? Like, I get it. I'm frustrated. I think the solution isn't Warsofsky and he's got to go. And I think the sooner you do that, the better personally. But, I know there's concern about, firing the coach doesn't solve the problems. And, true to some extent, but, he's actively a detriment, I think, to the development of these guys, the way he's running out.
It just feels like he's out of ideas already. I think that's my big concern is that like last season.
To that point, sorry. Like, okay, so that frustration moment that has become a meme, right? Where he bangs his head against the glass. And, too many men, people always blame the players for that shit. But that doesn't happen without a coach fucking up, because the coaches are the guys saying, hey, you guys are up next. And sometimes giving them a tap on the shoulder to be like, all right, go over the boards. So it's a mixture of things. And you can't just blame the players for too much man. That fuck up has, has ripples across the participants there. But when he does that, it's like, you're one of the coaches, you're one of the guys managing what lines are up next and who's going out. Like, don't look like you don't know. Don't look like it's not your fuck up too, buddy.
It is tough to be in his situation, because I will say it's obviously a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, if he had stayed steady this last week with his moves, I think fans would have been all over him. And meanwhile, he makes changes and the fans are all over him. Now, granted, it's because we don't like the changes he's made, but it definitely, again, it just, for whatever reason, I think maybe the difference between this year and last year, because we didn't start well last year either. I think the difference is our expectations were low and we were just excited to see Celebrini and maybe Smith. And this year, because both of them have had a season under their belts, we are now expecting more. And the franchise really, over with their communication, was essentially marketing that, look, this is not a playoff team, but it's going to be a step forward. And we're not seeing that. And instead, we're seeing them react like pretty haphazardly. Sorry, Colin, go on.
But I still, it's the first 5 games, and yes, you want to win it, but this league kind of takes steps in 10-game intervals. So I'm still okay as long as over the next 5 games we see the things that work come back in. And of course, Cag's getting a look will be great. But anyways,
and he is. It looks like
that doesn't mean he's in.
No, it doesn't mean he's in. But at least they made the right decision.
But worst comes to worst, and the Sharks do go 0-10, and it is shouting for the coach. Ben, what coaches are looking for a job right now?
Oh man, I don't even know. That is a problem.
You're getting torts, and you like it, Colin.
Yeah, it's torts, man. It's torts is looking for a job, buddy.
You need a guy to come in there.
How does Warsawski look now?
How do you like
Warsawski now, buddy?
You need a guy to come in there, Ben, and go, fuck all y'all. I hate you. You're going to play well, or you're going to sit the bench, and I'm going to murder your family. That's what you're looking for.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go cry in bed now. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah. Thanks, Colin. So real quick, let's cover these games real fast. We've already talked to them a little bit here, but the Sharks played the Carolina Hurricanes. They lost that game by a score of 5-1, and it really wasn't very close at all. That's the kind of the game I think that set off most of the panic after the disappointing way we lost the first 2 games. Goal from William Eklund, high five, with an assist from Toffoli and Leddy. Then the Sharks played the Utah Mammoth, where, again, not the best of games, especially the third period for them was really, really, really rough. They ended up losing that game 6-3. They did get goals from Toffoli, Skinner, who again is being wonderfully consistent, and Macklin Celebrini did get a power play goal in there. And then it was the first game of a back-to-back. Now, I expected the Penguins, not a great team this year, but back-to-back, especially coming off of that mental loss, I was looking for a response game. And I would say, for me at least, despite the fact that the Sharks lose this 3-0 and really lose it, later than earlier in the game, that at least for the first period, I kind of got that from the Sharks. Again, would I have loved to win? Absolutely. Do I think they could have won this game? Yeah, I do. They outshot, the Penguins there, and I thought they had a lot of really potent offensive plays that could have easily gone in. But at the end of the day, they at least looked a little bit more in this game like they did in the first 2 games. Like, it's almost like they took a vacation for Carolina and Utah. So is it good enough? Not really, but I thought they did play a good game despite losing this one. And yeah, I know people are going to point to, well, Penguins are not very good. You should win these games. Sharks are not very good, guys. Even Stevens,
objectively,
even Stevens
the Pens
is
are
not
better.
even. Yeah, right.
Objectively, the
Yeah.
Pens are better. So
Right.
this is the expected outcome. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
I mean, look,
anyway, go ahead.
they
Go
still
ahead.
have Malkin and Crosby. So like, and those guys can still finish. So
Poor Letang just
yeah.
out in the cold.
Well, you know, Letang, I'll tell you what, I didn't even realize that Sidney Crosby had tipped
Yeah.
his shot in.
Yeah, that
And
was a
it was a
great
hell of a
touch.
shot before it was even tipped. It was like, Jesus. That's what we need. So that's what Shark Show. Guys, 3 stars. Ooh, 3 stars of the week. We didn't even get into the embarrassment that is the whole ice on the screen thing. So no one better give that one a star here. But what who are your 3 stars? Colin, you made the mistake of sighing first, so therefore you get to go first.
Oh
Get
man.
wrecked.
Oh crap.
I can go if you
third-
want.
I can go too if you can't go.
Actually, I am going to give a very weird 3rd star to Iorio because he got thrown, he got ripped away from his team, thrown into just whatever the hell Sharks game that was, had a dismal game. Like,
Here's your participation
really-
trophy, buddy.
yeah, really bad game. And then he came, and then in the next game was better. Like it was not the absolute dog shit of the first game. It was better. So good job, guy.
It sounds like he was skating with Celebrini in the offseason too, and they know each other, which is they have a couple of connections. Which Celebrini seemed like, you know, I think he was doing some the captainy thing to an extent, but he also did seem like, oh yeah, no, this guy's pretty cool. So that was nice.
I'm pretty sure he was there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Colin, your second star.
So my second star is going to be my first duo of the set, where it's Eklund and Graf for just being great all over, and especially in the neutral zone. Like both of those guys are just really showing themselves as defensively responsible forwards, and I'm here for it.
Yep.
You know, anything that lets like Celebrini and Smith be a little more offensively minded, cool. And first star is Celebrini Smith duo because those 2 guys are now apparently supposed to carry lines, each of them.
So I'm gonna go. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's just nuts that we're tasking the kids like they're 10-year vets, and they're holding up to it.
Yeah. I'm going to go a different direction here, slightly. I'm going to say that my 3rd star goes to Graf and Eklund, and honestly, Colin, for the same reason. And I was actually going to split them up originally, but I like your logic there, and I agree. I think, despite the fact that Eklund did get a goal this week, obviously, but I think Eklund's doing really well. I think Graf is. I continue to be pleased with Graf, and that makes me very excited. My second star is going to go to Jeff Skinner. One, because I love sending Superintendent Chalmers
Principal Skinner memes.
things. Yeah, Principal Skinner. But also, he can score. He's got a good shot, and he's consistent. And that's what the Sharks need right now, is someone who can kind of consistently do that. And then my first star is actually going to go to Misa, and it's because I think through the offseason, through the preseason and in camp and other stuff, I thought Misa looked very smart. I knew he was going to be a good player, so I never had that concern. But I also didn't really think that he had done enough to deserve to be up this year in camp and preseason. It was one of those things where, to me, it felt like he was up more, and I was excited about him, but I felt like he was up more because his option was really the CHL, which didn't make any sense. He had already missed the boat on the NCAA with them really wanting to give him a shot, but I didn't necessarily feel like, the NHL was where he should be. And I will say this, I thought last game, he took a step forward to me. He looked great. He didn't look like he was outpaced quite as much as he did in the first game that he had come into, where I looked at him and I was like, yep, this is about what I was expecting based off the preseason. I saw this and I was like, okay, I feel like, now, again, to your point, Colin, can give like 10 games or whatever, but I felt like I did see a pretty fast jump between where he was and where he was in this last game. And again, he's a super, super smart player. Like that is not in question. The question is, how long does it take him to adjust to the faster pace, heavier hitting, higher skill level? And to me, it seemed like, I'm going to be cautious about this, but I feel like he did take a little bit of a step there, and that's encouraging to me.
I totally agree. He bodied the shit out of the dude to cause a turnover. It was great. Like,
Yeah.
That's not even a part of his game I was looking for. And he was like, I may only be 18, but I'm gonna kick the shit out of this dude here.
Hey guys, let me get involved.
Exactly.
Oh no.
That was your 3 stars, right, sir?
Those are my 3 stars, yeah.
Okay. So this is the Ben Smith apology tour of the season so far. So I'm gonna give my 3rd star to Descharnais. Because he strangely has been the most consistent, not shitty defenseman on the ice over the couple games that he's gotten to play. Which, fuck yeah. Great. I'm glad we have one of those. Thank you. I mean, I guess you could say Orlov has been fairly good, but boy, do I hate him on the power play.
But you were expecting Orlov to
exactly. And I've trash talked Descharnais so much that I now that he's Descharnais, okay, I'm happy about that. My 2nd star is going to go to Ty Dellandrea for basically the exact same thing. He's, I still don't think he's much more than a 3rd liner, in the NHL, but I even had questions about that last year. So, I hope I liked him as 4th line center. I think as an energy guy, his main handicap is a guy named Barclay Goodrow on his wing. So, keep it up, Ty. Hopefully I don't have to turn on you again later this year. And then my 1st star, I'm going to crib this one from Alex, Michael Misa, for those exact same reasons. His first game, he did look shaky at times. I thought he still was one of the better guys on the ice for the Sharks, but he looked shaky.
Yeah,
he didn't look shaky at all yesterday. Him and Dickinson both. Actually, you know what? Dickinson, come on in here. You can share this 1st star.
Yeah, I agree.
Both of these guys look like NHL players, and that's what we want at this point.
Yeah. Now we just need more of those.
Yeah, Dickinson. So that one zone exit where Dickinson, there was a guy coming in on him. Dickinson faked the pass. The guy went to the wall, and then he just skated it out and up. Yeah. Fuck yeah, do that every game. You're in.
Dickinson is. You're absolutely right. I should have put Dickinson there too. He has looked a lot. I think the difference to me between the two, and the reason I didn't put Dickinson in there, had more to do with the fact that I didn't think Dickinson looked as shaky as I think Misa did. But
I also don't think I saw Misa being as shaky in the preseason as you did. I think I saw Misa as basically like
checked out,
a young guy who's got a lot to learn, and that doesn't bother me as much as it bothered you.
No, well, but I do think the difference is I saw more of him in person, so I was seeing a lot of the off camera stuff as well, and not to saying that you didn't necessarily catch that stuff either. I think it's
some
just,
of it, right? It depends on where the camera's pointed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, sometimes, and this goes the other way too, right? Like sometimes you walk into like a prospect scrimmage and you're like, that guy is fucking amazing, Paul Camp. I'm hoping will be, because he sure seems looking every time I see him. But so the eyes can lie on either side. It's different perspective.
I think for me, what I very much have been this whole way comparing Misa and his progress to Smith, and I think most of the way here, Misa has seemed to be better ready than Smith did early last year, even in preseason. Right? And if Smith, with the talent he's got and the resume he had, got to where he did by midseason, I was just, I was willing to say I think Misa can do the same. I think Misa could do the same and be better, and I was willing to wait for it. I guess that's my.
I've always, for friends who have asked me, who are trying to get into the Sharks or in the offseason, we're trying to get into the Sharks. They were asking me a lot about Misa. And they were like, is he Celebrini? And I said, well, I don't think so. But I do think that he's right between Celebrini and Smith. I think he has a little bit more in common in his game and his IQ with Celebrini. Not to say I don't think Smith is incredibly smart or incredibly skilled, but I think I kind of continue to not really see Smith as a center, which is not a bad thing. I think I think he's better in the NHL level as a winger, whereas I think Celebrini I like him as a center quite a bit. I think Misa is going to end up being a center. And again, not knocking Smith, because I am a massive Smith fan right now. I think Smith's great. And when I point out that difference too, I'm always very clear that like, it's not that big of a gulf between these players necessarily. Like I do think Celebrity is up higher, but I like Smith's like, right there with Misa and all that kind of stuff. I think they're just, they play a different game.
Yeah. I want to highlight something about that too. Misa won 5 of his 6 faceoffs yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is, for a 18-year-old center in the NHL, is kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's a lot better than my 9-year-old who plays NHL 26 and just goes, I don't even know the button for faceoffs. And I go, would you like to know? And he goes, no.
Why? Yeah, why?
I'm like, oh, so you want the excuse you lose faceoffs? Yeah. All right, fine, kiddo. Hey, we got to get this going. That concludes this week. So last week, we were pleasantly surprised. This week, a little bit of a panic train for the fan base. It's your choice whether to get on. I will tell you this. If you opt to get on the panic train now, you are going to be miserable and you will have a miserable season. But the panic train is legitimately at the station and technically a little early. So you can't get on it if you want to get on it. That concludes this week's podcast. You can check us out on, you can subscribe to us on the Apple Podcast app, and you can give us a review, 5 stars or however many stars you want. Honestly, it doesn't really matter to us. We're going to do what we do anyway. Android people,
50 listeners, that's fine.
Yeah, Android people, I'm not even going to tell you what to do at this point. You can just probably figure it out or go to Spotify and check it out. You can, of course, check it out on the web at circlingthecup.com. If you're wondering where all the other 180 podcasts are, they're long gone, folks. Don't worry about it. We're not making up the number, though. We did used to pod a lot more. You can also check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/circlingthecup, which we, I did figure out the login, so I can't kind of check things in there. You can X us, tweet us. Well, I don't even know what it is anymore, but that's Ben at Circling the Cup, and Ben's going to give you a blue sky that he barely checks. Go ahead, Ben. Throw that out there.
I mean, I'd check it. It's benctc.bluesky.social.
We got a Discord channel. I don't even know how to explain to you how to find that one. And of course,
can put an invite anywhere we want to if
there
people want
you
to come to our Discord. So
get it tattooed on your forehead. And of course, you can listen to us live. We try to podcast on Sundays when we can, usually around 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. If you have questions, write us. We love answering those questions. Sometimes it actually gives us something to talk about, because I have a funny feeling the topic of defense bad is going to get stale by next week. So feel free to write us in. Otherwise, guys, another great pod. I'm still excited here. Just a little bit of that excitement's been kind of shaved off the top there, but still pretty excited. I hope you guys are too. Say goodbye.
I mean, if we keep going weekly, we might hit 300 podcasts by the end of the decade.
We should have hit 300 podcasts by 2020.
Yeah. Colin, you gonna say bye-bye?
Yeah, you gotta.
Cagnoni's gonna get our first game-winning goal.
Colin Graff.
Ooh.
No, Cags is gonna do it. Come on.
Oh, I have bad news for you guys. You guys are overlooking Captain Clutch, Barclay Goodrow.
Fuck off.
He almost scored last night. And I was ready. I'm ready for the score because I'm immediately going to be hitting you at Ben going, look. He's not great. But every now and then he's got a clutch goal. And that's why you have him. You just have him sitting there on the shelf waiting for that Game 7 game winner.
Oh, I hate you.
Bye-bye. All right, I got to go, guys.